everybody, and welcome to the Wild Wahine. This is Kaylani, and this is your Astro forecast for this week. We have so much to talk about and so many good things happening this week, so I want to jump right in because it's a lot. So we're dealing with something called a minor grand trine this week. So essentially what that is two planets that are sextiling each other, which would be like beneficial energy. These are planets that are communicating in a way that they come together and they're kind of cohesive in their energies. And then we have also a trine, so it's creating this triangle. And with this triangle, the energies are all kind of working together. And the focus point of this triangle is, in terms of planets, is Sun and Mercury. And Sun being like who we are and like our ego and ourselves, and then Mercury, the way that our mind is working and how we communicate and how things are traded back and forth in commerce and things like that. So those are going to be kind of sort of the focus. Also, we have Venus ingressing into her home sign of Taurus. So that's going to feel really good because I've been talking about all month how she's been a little bit beat up in Aries. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about. We're talking about this trine and how we can best use that energy, and then also Venus moving into Taurus. With this particular trine, the planets that are being activated with that is Sun, Mercury, and Mars. And then we also have Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter. And then we have Mars and Jupiter having a conversation, and they're in the trine. The first two are in sextile. Essentially, Mars is pushing and giving the energy and getting all of the initiation and the activity. And Jupiter is kind of sending out all of the energy and making it like larger and giving it also focus, and also, is bringing all the luck because Jupiter is one of our benefic planets. But then we also have the Sun and Mercury squaring Pluto, which is kind of some transformational shifting power energy. So it'll be interesting because we're going to have this initiation, expansion, and then kind of transformation. And that's how I kind of want you guys to think about it. But we're going to first start with the Mars trine because we're going to be feeling that the longest. We've been feeling that. We're feeling it all this week, and we're going to be feeling it way into next week. It will be perfecting on the 16th. So that is the date. Actually, if you want to kind of sort of launch something, really great time to do it. I do want to just say as a caveat, even though we have these really beautiful energies happening, Venus is still kind of square Pluto, and she's still, at least at this point, not yet moved into Taurus. So she's like the least happy out of everybody. So while this energy is really good for things like business and things like, getting yourself out there and personal work for yourself, for your relationships and things like that, or your relationships with other people or partnerships, those might still be a little bit challenging. So it's like we're using this energy for the things that it's really good for. And it's good for like personal accomplishments and personal achievement. That's going to be kind of the focus. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Jupiter is in a superior trine. So that's kind of like Jupiter's like king and doing whatever Jupiter wants to do, which is bringing all the good gifts and bringing good luck. With this trine to Mars, because Mars is in the sign of Gemini, Jupiter is in the sign of Aquarius, so it's going to be heavy air energy. So any writers that are out there, any people that are orators or communicators or poets or anything like this is going to be like a really great time of activation for you guys, and thinking about what you want and writing or journaling. If you've been thinking about like keeping a journal or having some sort of like written practice, really great time for that. Some of this energy is going to be focusing on like fighting for what you desire, having good luck, which is something that comes with this, self-confidence, enthusiasm to get things done. So you will feel activated and want to get things done, achievement oriented. So really thinking about like getting across the goal, mapping out your goals, mapping out the things that you want, and having the focus really to be able to get there. This trine is going to really strengthen that. It's active. So if you've been thinking about like getting up and getting involved in some type of activity, especially if it's a little bit more like cardio heavy, or just have like a lot more energy, it'd be really great for that. And just really supportive of successes. One of the things to watch out with this though, since there's like so much powerful energy that's happening, is that you don't want the ego to kind of inflates and gets huge and there's no room for anyone else because the ego is so big. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to dominate people with this particular type of energy because we'll be a lot more powerful and really want to kind of put ourselves out there, put our opinions out there, and put our wants and desires out there, which is fantastic, but we definitely don't want to like over talk people. We're still in a conversation, and that's going to be important, especially because Mercury's there. So we're always going to be in conversation, even though we're going to feel really empowered within ourselves. So the first part of this grand trine, the Sun is sextile Mars. We're feeling this energy now. We're feeling all of these energies really to the end of the week. It is perfecting on the 13th, which is today. So the Sun is already exalted because it's in Aries. So there's already been this big sense sense of like myself. Who am I? What do I want? What am I putting out there? When we're sextiling that with Mars, we're really getting a lot of activation on that. So we're really going to try to initiate the things that we want in our life, and the things that will personally make us happy, which is also probably why, we look at relationships, that can be challenging, because sometimes if you're in relationships and partners, if you're only thinking about yourself, the partner or the group feels like, what about me? So that's also where the challenge could come from. Personal courage, competition, like healthy competition, could be also a good thing that can really like push you for some people who have that kind of thing. I know I do. I love competition. It makes me, I think, be my better self. So for those of you that like that, this is a good time to kind of sort of do that in a healthy way. Some of the challenging parts of it is aggression, potentially looking for fights, quarreling, arguments, and potential injury and sickness. We tend to get that a lot whenever kind of Mars is in the vicinity, and things that could be related to like heat or heat related sickness. So that could be inflammation or fevers or things like that. So while we're still in the middle of the Rona, just be careful while you guys are out there. So the sun is also sextiling Jupiter, and that's going to be perfecting on the 14th. So this is going to be a really good time. Again, like I said, this is now when we're talking about Jupiter, we're talking about this energy now expanding out. And so with this energy expanding, personal expansion, sharing yourself with others, sharing your story with others, sharing who you are with other people and inspiring other people, being visible is also something. Whenever the sun is involved, there's a certain quality of visibility that you have in a space, and leading, learning from somebody or teaching in a foreign place or from a foreign person is possibility. Having good luck, having vitality. Jupiter is a benefic planet. It usually comes bringing all the gifts. So whatever it is that you're trying or you're putting out there, it gives you a little extra oomph to get that done. Some of the things that can be challenging is not feeling very grounded, focusing too much on the big picture and not on the details, which is going to be okay because, Mercury also is going to be making this sextile with Jupiter, which will allow you to focus a little bit more on the details, but we'll talk that later. And also just ego. That's just, sun, self, Jupiter, big self, check your egos. We just want to make sure that that's in check though, because we're going to be feeling ourselves this week. So the sun will be squaring Pluto again. Now we're coming into that transformational energy, transforming ourselves through hardship, potentially gaining power. It could have to do with like conflicts, because this is now a square with Pluto. So that would be a challenging aspect. And so having conflicts over power, who like if there's two people who are feeling themselves, who's running the ship at work or at home or wherever there's these dynamic of groups. It could also be a lot of shadow work that you're doing for yourself. Really, really good time for that. Really good time to take action on your shadow work. And that could look like so many different things. It could look like therapy. It could look like self-care. It could look like taking a course. It could look like talking to a friend, like just dealing with your demons. You'll feel more empowered to do it now, to kind of slay the demons, as opposed to feeling a lot of shame. You might feel like, okay, I'm ready to overcome that now. I've kind of like mourned it enough. Now it's time to move past that. Some of the challenging things that can come with the sun squaring Pluto, it could be violence. It could be situations of the death or rebirth of a solar figure, somebody who is well known, a celebrity, somebody that is in the spotlight because it is the sun. That can be in a metaphoric sense where someone gets canceled, for example. That seems to be what happens a lot of times. Or it can be a very literal sense too. Things that have to do with like the earth, things that like, volcanoes erupting, earthquakes, storms, lightning, and also just like a self-destructive quality, which can, in some ways, the pulling apart of self can be good because you're like putting yourself together and changing into the person that a better person, especially if you've been struggling with some things that have been unhealthy. But it can also be like things that are deeply unhealthy and being destructive on those kinds of things and destroying self from that can be a challenge. In terms of Mercury, which is also, in this particular trine aspect, Mercury is sextiling Mars, and that's going to be perfecting on the 17th, even though we're going to feel it the whole week. So that has to do with our mind. So we just finished talking about the sun making all of those aspects, right? And that's kind of sort of like who we are, the essence of who we are. Now it's Mercury making all of these aspects, and that's essentially like our mind, how we're thinking, what we want to say, and how we're communicating, and how maybe we're selling goods or buying goods, or like the transfer of information and things like that. That's what's happening with Mercury. So with Mercury sextiling Mars, it's mind, mental energy, bringing things from a thought place into form. Also debating, writing, it's a really good time for that. Public speaking, moving fast, fast acting, quick thinking, thinking on your feet, coming up with ideas, generating things, and coming up with products and all of that thing. It's going to be really, really positive for that. Some of the challenging aspects when Mercury is sextile Mars is the fact that we can become quite manic, nervous about like all of the things that are happening. We're having lightning fast ideas. Ideas are flipping in and out of our head all of the time, or we just have all of these thoughts about things and getting caught up in them and getting stressed out about them can definitely happen. We can be very combative. We can be very defensive too. So, and also irritability is something that's huge. Mercury is also sextiling Jupiter. That's perfecting on the 17th. That should bring about an ease of communication and speaking. It has to do with communicating and speaking to people online, potentially like reaching a large group of people or a network of people. You know, Jupiter is in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is networks and groups. So if you are leading like online seminars, or for people who, you know, are having stuff in person, you know, getting your message out to people, getting your thoughts out to people, this is going to be a great time for that. Getting your course out to people, getting your business out to people, getting your services out to people, all of those things. I would say, like, for business owners, this is called the promote the heck out of yourself week. Do it. Writing a book, any kind of writing, any kind of speeches, any kind of communication where you're sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas. Great time for social media influencers, people who are putting up content, content creators, all those folks, really great time. So focus on that and get your stuff out there. Challenge with that, Jupiter being expansive and being big and with Mercury, with all the kind of chit chat, can be a lot of rumors, can be excessive talking, like way too much, could be bragging, like all of those kind of sort of petty things. You know, when we think about Jupiter, we think about there's this heavy spirituality that's associated with the planet. Jupiter likes to talk about big things, big ideas, big books, you know, a tomb, so to speak. And Mercury is like the gossip column and like, you know, like what can I, yeah, what is the information? It's like TMZ, you know, so to speak. If you even watch that or know what that is, I don't really watch it, but I know that they always have like the breaking this and this is the celebrity gossip, you know, I know it is that. So that's the kind of thing that can happen. You can also overpromise and underdeliver. Again, having these big ideas, but then not able to deliver what you want. So you want to make sure you're really using this energy to have your big goals and then break them down little by little. And you'll have both of the planets are in this great sextile conversation. So you will be able to do that. Now we have Mercury coming into this square with Pluto. And so this conversation that they're having, which is perfecting on the 17th, has a lot to do with communications about things that have to do with power dynamics, that might have to do with politics, that might have to do again with a death rebirth cycle. It has to do with like political writing. It could be psychological writing, words and speech that are being investigated, investigative journalism, stories that you hear that are transformative for you, you telling a transformative story, or you hearing a transformative story and being transformed by that. Be dealing with your shadow or sharing your shadow with someone else, or the shadow coming up that can help you, that can also destroy you, or at least like kind of throw a loop for you. Uncovering hidden stories about people that are in power. And as we all know, those stories tend to be very political or sex oriented. So because it's Pluto, don't be surprised that more information is coming out against people who are being investigated, or a whole other person is incriminated, or that comes out. So all of those things have to do with that. Some of the more shadowy type things with this energy could be the death and rebirth of a mercurial person, a person who has does a lot of commentary, who talks about things. It could be like news reporter. And again, that can be metaphorical in the sense of someone being canceled, someone being fired, or something like that. And it also could take on a literal sense. It could be plotting, could be kind of like this Machiavellian plot. I know the last time Mercury and Pluto were in a conversation, that's when we had like the Capitol riots that happened. And it was interesting because it was very mercurial in the way that it happened. Obviously, you know, people died, but things were like stolen, you know, and then there was like, you know, people pooped on the things and they stole podiums, and there was just this kind of tomfoolery, shenanigan, but also dangerous type of stuff. So that kind of energy is possible. And so know that even though Mercury's involved, and that tends to be kind of like the god Loki, which is kind of trickster energy, most of the time we don't think of trickster energy as being dangerous, but it absolutely can be. But it's also like super goofy too. So those are some of the things that can happen as well. Obsessions, wounding someone or saying something hurtful to someone that kind of transforms their life. Could have a lot to do with like spies being uncovered, someone spying on another person, blackmail, whistleblowers. I know that there were some changes, or there was some conversation about the Espionage Act this week. I don't know all the details about it, but just whistleblowers coming out with, this is really what the government's doing. I bet you guys didn't know. And or people who came out and now they're being arrested and might be going to trial and all of those kinds of things, and just exposure of hidden information that changes your worldview potentially. Those are all things that could potentially happen. And last but definitely not least, we have Venus and Taurus. So Venus is moving into the sign of Taurus. This is happening on the 14th. Venus will be in her home sign, her domicile, like in all of her beautiful, luxurious space until May the 7th. So I, for one, am very happy that Venus is in a good place. We're all doing good. I mean, all kinds of stuff is happening, but I'm biased, guys. I'm biased. I love Venus. So I do want to say, though, small caveat to that. Before she moves into the sign of Taurus, she is in her anaretic degree. These anaretic degrees I've been watching for the last several, like 6 months or so. And I have noticed that when signs are in that place, when they switch over, there's always some kind of crazy, gnarly thing that happens. Literally with the Capitol riot that happened when Mars was in its anaretic degree, the last couple of degrees before it switches signs, and apparently the last couple degrees are ruled by Mars, so it does have this catalyst. So I am kind of thinking, like, what kind of crazy Venusian drama which is going to happen or going to be unleashed before she goes into Taurus and stabilizes. And essentially that's what it is, because Taurus is an earth sign. Now I will have a separate video out on Taurus. I did one on Aries before, and I will have one on Taurus, so I'm not going to go into all of the Taurian things because that's coming up. But Venus in the sign of Taurus at home is stable. She's comfortable. She's feeling beautiful. She's giving, again, our benefic planet, giving a lot of gifts, giving a lot of supports. It's all about the senses. It's all about sensory things. It's about things that are sensual. It's about coming together. It's about finding a way to make things work, about love, about romance, about slow, deliberate movements, being very tactile. Sensual is the word, essentially, which is probably why I love it. If you think of things like the divine feminine and things like that, that is kind of the energy. It's all about if you're working with Venus in terms of manifestation, which is a wonderful planet, and Mercury too, is a wonderful planet, those two, but specifically for Venus, because there is this sense of drawing things in. It's not so much about like going to get things, it's allowing things to come to you. So it really is like a flower, which is so bright and so beautiful and so fragrant that the bees are just like, I have to have the nectar. So that's kind of how you think about things at this time. So she brings gifts of money, she brings gifts of beauty, of art, really great time for musicians, or if you're thinking about like writing music or collabing with music, fantastic time for that. So anyway, I can't say enough about, Venus being in her home sign, which is going to feel really good, even though we have all kinds of other aspects and things happening. I'm just like, if Venus is okay, like we're going to be okay. So anyway, that is your Astro Chat for this week. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. If you're interested in having a birth chart reading or having a tarot reading or having any kind of spiritual consultation, you can find me at www.thewildwahine.as.me. And I hope you guys have a beautiful week and get like amazing things done with this powerful energy that we have. Thank you so much, and aloha.